So finally, I've got a tent back, so we can get on with working on this stupid boat. It's only been a year. Anyway, welcome back to Carol Reborn. So finally, with all the machines arriving back to the boat tent, the electrics in, we're covered, we can get back to work. It's time at last to get back to actual boat work, and this is where I got to at the last boatyard before I arrested everything so I could actually move the boat and not be stuck there. You can see that I was unfastening the hood ends. I'm slowly taking out the fastenings to the frames to open up the bows of the boat, remove these timbers. It's the first week of December. I'm determined to get those out, measured, and place the orders before Christmas. Anyway, let's get a level. For vertical plumb, for me there's no better thing to use than a tight string. This was hanging on an old rigging screw which I felt appropriate, and it's what I had. Don't need a laser for this job. String's your best way. For level pitch fore and aft, for reference, of course, I've got these water lines. I set them. I drew this line on, I think 15 years ago when she was in the water, and I've chiselled it into her hull as a permanent reminder. Luckily I've still got the paint on. Luckily I can use it for levelling now. So anywhere I take floors out, I always put some temporary structure back in, just to stop everything moving, which is a bit precarious now. I'm sort of tiptoeing on the old floors because I can't stand on the keel timber that's just hanging off some bits of wood. Now, one of the last things I did with the old keel, the template that I had for the top, was route out and record these frame pockets. And that's my best reference for sliding this up into position. Let's go back outside with a sledgehammer and see how we get on. The only blessing I can find that all these planks have to be removed is I don't have to be so reverent in taking these fastenings out. It's quite an archaeological dig of steel, bronze, brass and sometimes horseshoe nails that have been used over the years, and it's a case of whatever goes to get them out. I find a force and a bit works, and a chisel to expose the heads. If I had to care about the planking, of course, both of these would have to be sharp and more accurately applied, but as I don't, I can just smash things off. I always try a turn on the screw first, but so often the heads shear off, so it's a chisel and a mole grips to hand next. One thing's certain, if I put a modern drill driver anywhere near these, there wouldn't be a head in sight. Although the planks remain on for the next phases, and in fact to locate the new stem precisely, I don't need all of them. In fact, it makes life a bit easier to lose alternate ends just for the ease of opening the whole thing up. I'm marking the ones to remove with paint and sawing and drilling now, so I get reference on the inside, so I knock the right pins out. Now you might be saying, why don't I get the old caulking out? And although I have been trying to pull it in places with quite a fine reefing hook, these planks are really finely cut here, and I'm struggling to get much useful cotton out. And this of course is all red lead, so I don't really want to put a oscillating tool or anything else in there, so I'm just going to pop these planks out from the back. It's going to be a long night. So, while that other Simon is beavering away knocking holes in a boat, I thought I'd just grab this chance to have a catch up and face the fact that I've got some explaining to do, because life changed very recently. So after 4 years of spending so much time isolated and sliding into the madness of a boat tent, I've found that I've been having conversations quite deep and meaningful with a bandsaw, with a wooden boat, but that goes with the territory of wooden boat ownership, but also with Tommy the transit tipper, who's started to answer back. And what's changed is all of a sudden, and thank you Mike G for the push that got things moving, I'm having conversations with people in comments on a YouTube channel and on Facebook. I'm talking to people in Australia and Mozambique, and it feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Hence the need for explanations. And it's either talk to you all now or me trying to answer each one at my slow typing pace, which ain't going to happen. So I think there'll be a lot of these little conversations as we get moving and catch up, because there's so much explaining of how and why and what's up with various bits. But the burning questions right now are, one, what are we watching here? Is it a complete rebuild or what? And the other one is, why did it take so long? In 2019, we were hauled out at previous boatyard and embarked on that project, stripping off the paint just to measure the materials and get on with that job. Trouble is, when I got there, I had to recognise that there was no point carrying on, because there was nothing really to screw new planks to. This boat has slowly been eating herself alive, courtesy of the iron that's in the very core of her construction. At that point, I'm faced with a simple decision: to cut her up or to rebuild her. Now, being a romantic idiot, here we are 4 years later trying to rebuild her. But remember, that was 2019. Remember what happened next? Along came COVID. Now, I'm sure everyone had terrible times with that. The impacts for me were twofold. First, the boatyard that I was in locked the gates and I wasn't allowed anywhere near her. And what a great time that would have been to bring a YouTube channel to the world. Okay, whatever. The other thing for COVID was that it took away my income. Just as my expenses had gone like that because I needed to rent somewhere to live in England and support the rent on this, my income did that because there was no super yacht industry, there was no ski industry, there was no travelling for 2 years. I became a gardener. It was the only way to survive, using the origin skills that I had as a landscape architect. I just became a gardener. It's been a long crawl since then back to some sense of financial stability. I've built a landscape design business here in the New Forest, which is the vehicle that pays for the rent, at least, of this. There's never been much meat on the bone to buy materials, but that's nothing new to my life, so we'll get there. The latter expenses, of course, have been having to move away from what became an awful boatyard. We move on. And so finally the project starts here, hence this being episode 1. So that means I need to explain the 13 films on the channel that precede this one. What they really are just snapshots of what happened along those 4 years. They were more complete, they were much more in depth and much more useful. However, in leaving that boatyard behind, we've had to go back through them and chop out any images that define the location, any logos from the business that was there, any staff members, any images of people. And that means they're a fairly tattered bunch. So in the end, I just threw them on YouTube, got them out there, and this is episode 1. We start from now. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. Well, here it is. So there you go. I hope that little catch-up explains a whole bunch of stuff and should make some sense out of what's gone before on this channel. It's going to be a long journey. Yes, it is a complete rebuild. It's going to take some time. I'm still not giving up. So, I think that's enough for me. And back to that idiot who's knocking holes in a boat. Things I do for my art. Right. So I've been knocking out the pins that hold these timbers all together. And you can see from that one, it's fairly wasted, classic wasting, where this section's been sitting in this permanently wet oak. So yeah, she needed fixing, but we knew that. So the last of the fastenings is a single bolt through from the stem to the breast hook. Once I take that away, or most likely cut it, I don't think there's much hanging on to this, so I've got a safety line on. I need to check there's no one outside. Maybe roll the tent flaps up and see what happens. Well, there you go, first piece is out. I think I need to make a better plan for the next piece. It's a bit heavier. I think I got lucky. So there it is before us, magnificent stem pieces that I've been wrestling with for I think 4 days now. It's been a valiant battle, but here it is. And I'm so glad I never ordered components for this before getting it out to really measure. I understand it so much better now. What I thought were separate pieces actually was just a split piece of timber. I can follow the grain to say, oh yeah, that's just snapped off. This that I always thought were 2 pieces because there's a very clear line on the other side. It's actually just a split. This is 1 solid piece, which I'm much happier about. That's certainly the way I'd want to build it. And I'm absolutely convinced that this repair that was done in the 90s was a repair to what was once 1 single piece of oak. I may choose to buy it differently, depends what my suppliers can get me, but rather than having this grain oriented this way, I might put some more angle on it, which I'd prefer. Buying it oversized is no hardship because the offcuts, the spare, will become the top cap, probably half the deadwoods for the stern. And this will be 1 beautiful piece, so the grain runs beautifully up through it. She's not so sharp on the bow that I can't do that. I've missed the deadline though. I missed the Christmas deadline to my suppliers. I'll be ordering this in the new year. Or maybe I'll be writing to Santa and see if he can slip that in my stocking, but I don't think he'd get it in his sleigh. And that pretty much wraps up the episode. Apart from one thing that's left outstanding, and it's been a while coming. You may remember that bandsaw that was a rusty heap of metal that I picked up from a farmyard in Wales. So long ago now, it's almost probably 2 years ago now. Well, it's rattled around a couple of boatyards and I've rebuilt it and finally got it set up and running. Come and have a look. I don't care if you laugh at me running away from it, but honestly, that thing will have your leg off. takes quite a while to stop. You'll notice that it's missing a couple of things. One is some trees to keep that blade at safe bay, because quite honestly I don't want to go anywhere near this until it's got something to protect me. And the other thing it's missing is the table. Now that originally would have been cast iron and on a pivot on rollers here, so that when it tilts and its point of turning is right at the blade height. I'm going to put it out to the audience if anyone knows of one of these. I'm looking for one for the next phase of making the stem timbers. I don't need one, because what I need is a pure square cut, and I can just set up a table with plywood sheets or other metals to make the stem. But when we come to cutting the frames, which is the other real reason for having something like this, it would be great to be able to tilt it. Don't need to, I can do that with a plane as well, but well, it's nice to have the option and make it complete again. So there he is, Billy the bandsaw, ready for duty. He was bought with one thing in mind, it was cutting the curves on those stem timbers, and I know that he'll do it without flinching. Whether I don't flinch as I come anywhere near him when his blade's spinning is another story, but he'll be alright. And that does wrap up the episode. So to say thank you for watching, please hit me up in the comments below to save me forming a relationship with Billy the bandsaw, or talk to us on Facebook. We have Kerrol Reborn page, or the group Kerrol Confidential, so we can chat amongst ourselves. Anyway, from us two, cheers for now.